What's up, family? I can't freaking believe it. Man, get this video a big thumbs up. But I can't freaking believe it, family. I'm on the edge of my seat. How long I've been waiting for Joe Rogan to host Donald Trump on his podcast. And really for Trump to just be doing podcasts in general. And this year has been the gift that keeps on giving, folks. And I think the Trump campaign learned a thing or two from Vic Ramaswamy during the early days of the Republican primary, where they saw him take his no-name candidacy from zero to hero in a matter of a couple of months. The Trump campaign got the message and employed the strategy to great success. And it's been fantastic. But not all podcasts are made equal, you know. As they say, there's levels to this stuff. And of course, the pinnacle of podcasting, that coveted number one spot belongs to one man and one man only, whether you like it or not. And it's Joe Rogan, folks. I've been sitting on it. I have said it. I must have said it at least 100 times. Donald Trump has to go on the Rogan show or podcast. Rogan's got to make it happen. He got to stop with this fake political neutral nonsense. He doesn't want to get involved enough with this naive bullcrap. Like Larry Elder says, we got a country to save, you know, after 2 assassination attempts, after all these bogus indictments, after everything I've been saying, it's time to throw this political neutrality out of the window, and it's time to have a sit-down conversation with the Donald. And now, after years of begging, after years of pleading, what might actually be happening. It hasn't been officially confirmed by the Joe Rogan team just yet, but I'll say at this point, you might argue it's all but confirmed. Hopefully that, or Elon Musk and Donald Trump are attempting to speak it into existence. It might actually be happening, folks. Let's have a conversation about this. We got some stuff to get into, so let's rock out. All right, folks. So, of course, this all started with an Elon Musk tweet, or actually not a tweet, but a reply to a tweet. Elon Musk claims that Joe Rogan / Donald Trump interview, quote, will happen before Election Day, despite Rogan's past reluctance. ALX on Twitter, as I'll show you guys on the screen, ALX here, has actually wrote this. Rogan has 25 days to interview Donald Trump. That was on the 10th of October. And then Elon Musk responded, as I scroll down, it will happen. And responded frankly to many people's shock. It will happen. And now initially, I don't read too much into this. Like I was saying, it could be wishful thinking. It could be an attempt to speak it into existence, as I always say. But then this happened. Donald Trump once again links up with the Nelk Boys, family. Check this out.
Doing a lot of podcasts recently. One that I would love to see you on is, I think Joe Rogan has to have you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Oh, sure I would.
I think Joe, like, besides us, Joe's
I think I'm doing it, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you are going to do Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I am.
Joe Rogan's the best in the game, for sure. And I think, you know,
Did Joe become so well known because of the UFC? And he does a great job with that, right?
He's an honest guy, too, right?
He is.
So I think...
Good guy.
Good guy. And I think you guys together would just
And he's got a good voice. That's important.
Yeah.
And so, look, I'm still not comfortable saying that it is absolutely going to happen. It will happen, like Elon Musk said. But it seems as though it might. And that right there, well, that's just what hope is made of, right? So far, it's been nothing but hopium. Come on, Joe, do the thing. Come on, man. Sounding like Joe Biden over here. You know what I'm saying? Went from hopium to actual hope. And this thing might actually happen. And I can't think of anything more epic. I mean, just imagine the significance, right? And really start to think about this last-minute blitz here that Donald Trump's doing historically. Trump's been described as a closer in elections. He tends to not do so good in the polling outlook, but then the closer you get to the election day, Trump makes some strategic moves. He really sucks all the oxygen out of the room, and right before election day, all of a sudden the race is closer, much closer than it was 2 months out. And that's why people describe him as a finisher. He always finishes strong. Well, imagine what's happening now. Imagine how the left must be panicking. Kamala Harris, of course, tried to do the same thing with her little media blitz, and it's been a complete disaster. She's fallen instead of gaining any momentum from it, and now Donald Trump's announcing that he's going to show up at Madison Square Garden, folks. You don't believe me? You don't believe me. And it's actually even better that it's not just Madison Square Garden. It's a big arena blitz. Check this out.
Only Madison Square Garden, we're taking 4 or 5 arenas. We fill them up very fast. As you know, we took where the Islanders play in Long Island. We had, I guess, 23,000 people, and we could have sold it out literally 3 times. We had thousands of people. We had tens of thousands of people that couldn't get in. We put screens on the outside of the building so they could see it. But that was incredible. And we just signed on Madison Square Garden. We're probably going to make a deal in Atlanta. We're trying to get the Atlanta arena, and we fill them up in minutes. And there's a great enthusiasm.
I think Madison Square Garden can only hold 20,000 people.
No, we're going to fill it up very fast. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure which arena he's referring to in Atlanta, but it could be the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You know, he's talking about filling up some huge stadiums and, of course, making noise like no one else. And I don't know, I mean, I just imagine it. Just imagine the final days ahead of election cycle. Trump shows up on Rogan's show or podcast. I keep saying show. And he's going to break records. I mean, it's going to be, I think, like nothing we've seen before. I think that Alex Jones' appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast, after all the controversy, is going to pale in comparison to this. If this actually happens, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of impressions across the podcast itself, the live stream, and then all the VODs and little clips that are going to be shipped all over the internet. We're talking about Donald Trump again, sucking the oxygen out of the room, then going from arena to arena, packing house without having to piggyback off of celebrities, you know, unlike Kamala Harris, who sets up the Megan Thee Stallion concert and then pretends that it's Kamala Harris rally. We're talking about Trump being the main show, the main product. And I've been saying the same thing over the last couple of days, that Donald Trump is outshining Kamala Harris. But at this point, I mean, she might just fizzle into a relevant way or relevancy. And I think people are going to forget that she's even running for president once all this stuff happens. Or if it happens, the arenas, I think, are definitely going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be able to actually rent or book some of these arenas. It's getting a little bit close to the deadline here. I wonder what they have lined up. And I think the Madison Square Garden one is already confirmed. But the rest of the arenas, I guess we'll have to see exactly what happens. But for some reason, I don't think these arenas are going to say no to a giant freaking payday. It would be stupid to do that, not only financially, but just from an optics perspective. Could you imagine headline if arenas reject Donald Trump's request? Imagine the boycotts that will follow. So I think the arenas are happening. This Joe Rogan thing, however, I'm not exactly sure. But if it does, I don't know, folks. I just don't know how Kamala could possibly compete with this. And, of course, the left is in full copium mode, you know, on quote-unquote, go ahead, go on the Joe Rogan podcast, as if it makes a difference. Everyone watching Joe Rogan is a right-wing neo-Nazi. It's not like he's going to convince anyone. And Joe Rogan's going to expose them anyways. You know, these are the narratives that they will say from the left, right? And I've seen so many copium takes on Twitter. But come on, we know exactly what's going to happen. If this Joe Rogan podcast happens, Donald Trump's going to perform like he always do. And I mean, those are the perfect moments. Just look at his performance on the Flagrant podcast. He absolutely nailed it. He does a great job in these moments. Why? Well, because ding, 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 he's a real human. He's being a real guy. He's authentic. He's funny and charismatic. And like I always say, he's everything that Kamala Harris wishes she was if sitting down with Joe Rogan could ever result in a disastrous outcome for Trump. Never. Joe Rogan's an honest dude, you know what I'm saying? And while he may not be the most political involved, while he may not be versed in everything that's going on in the news cycle, for the most part, Joe Rogan gets it. And I want to show you guys why I believe he gets it, because I feel like he's a fair, reasonable type of guy.
Well, not only that, they've distorted who he is. Whatever flaws Donald Trump has are nothing in comparison to the media's depictions of him. And
everybody's got flaws.
You're now the enemy of Trump. If I was friends with DeSantis, I'd be like, don't do it. You can't beat that guy. You just can't. When that guy gets out there and he's waving to people and they're going crazy, you're not beating that. There's a And the fact that he was the president for 4 years and the country was in a great economic situation,
Yeah.
and it looked like his policies were actually effective, and that it looked like the unemployment was down, all business was building, regulations were being relaxed, more things were getting done. You know, when you look at it from a policy perspective, if you just look at it on paper, what he did was effective.
And it's still the same drive is what led that guy to deal with this 4 years where they were trying to put him in jail so that he doesn't run again and still run again. And they try to kill him twice and he's still running. All the different the 34 counts where which were not felonies, which they upgraded from a misdemeanor, which passed the statute of limitations. All of them were bookkeeping errors or mislabeling things, which is illegal. They're minor offenses that would not get anybody prosecuted, much less put in jail. Real potential for him being in, and people want him to put him in jail. They want to put him in jail for a long time, and it's crazy.
It is crazy. And Joe Rogan is at least honest enough to call a spade a spade. And that right there obviously is a huge benefit to Donald Trump in any interaction. He's not going to have to deal with a typical agnostic press asking bogus leading questions and attempting to get their gotcha moment with the former president. Joe Rogan's going to be actually honest, talking about what's really going on and what's really happened over the last couple years. And that right there, well, that's the left kryptonite they can only thrive in, an information vacuum where they're allowed to control the narrative in a real conversation between two dudes. And yeah, you know, that's the perfect recipe for handling red pills to the masses, and nobody's got access to the masses like Joe Rogan. And I mean, we all know why the mainstream media has worked so vehemently and so diligently to destroy his podcast over the last couple of years. They're jealous. CNN can't stand the fact that Joe Rogan in one podcast gets the same viewership that they probably get all week in terms of unique visiting viewers probably all year. CNN just has the same 600,000 crusty boomers showing up to get their Trump derangement fixed. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's audience across social media is probably somewhere north of 100 million people. Maybe not. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Definitely tens of millions. I mean, he gets it. I think the last count that we saw was around 11 million listeners per podcast. That's just the people listening on Spotify, not counting the clips, the YouTube stuff, the Instagram, the X, the TikTok views. I mean, this guy has access like no one else. The mainstream media knows it. They hate it. And that's the guy who now apparently is going to platform the former president, Donald Trump, in an honest manner. Oh, you just know it's going to be good. And if it happens again, it will just... If it happens, we'll see. We'll have to see and let the left-wing copium kick into freaking overdrive. It's got to happen, though. Joe, you got to do it. And it's your civic duty at this point. Enough with the pretentious bull crap. Bring Donald Trump on for Pete's sake. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. See you next time.